little dark, but that's okay. Okay, so I'm going to. I printed out some papers, but you will get online. It'll be everything online, so you'll be able to see it there, and I'll show you what it looks like. But in Eduphoria, whenever you go into your name on your end, you should be able to, once I send these, like I submit them.
Yeah.
Because like just like this one, you'll sign it, but then these two will pop up too, and then you'll be able to see all the information that's put in there.
Okay.
And so there are 3 different things, well, more than 3, but there's different things that I took notes on during your observation. And so I'll show you kind of what it looks like. Oh, this pops up. Let me see if I move this one over here. I don't know. This other category doesn't want to pop up. There it goes. So I took just general notes. This is just a running record of what I was recording during your class. And so I just wrote everything that I heard, everything that I saw, and then I typed it up and put it into notes.
Okay.
And then I also have the evidence. So I put it into the domains based on that, and it just summarizes it. And then here is just low inference data tables that show timestamps. So at this time in your class, this is what you were doing, this is what the students were doing, and then this is what I saw for the data. And so that just different things that are broken up, and it's also by domain. And so that's in the evidence folder. If you want to look at those, you can see them in your evidence online. All right, so then let's get into it. How do you think this lesson went?
It's not that really effective.
You didn't feel like it was effective?
Yeah, because there are some students who didn't arrive on the step 3 of my lesson.
So why do you think it didn't turn out the way you wanted it to turn out?
Oh yeah, I made a reteach for that the other day, and then it was all about writing covalent and ionic compounds. So the other day I focused on naming first the ionic, and then the other day I reteach again for the covalent. Yeah, because they can't really understand when I try to. It is overwhelming to them all the time.
And so with this particular lesson, were there specific things in this lesson that you feel like you may have tweaked in order to get the results that you wanted? You had a goal. We talked about it. You showed me your lesson plans. I think your lesson on paper looked good. But then whenever it became to the part for the execution, where do you think there was a disconnect?
Maybe it is in the group activity, because I don't know what's wrong with the students, because maybe they were thinking that you are also observing them, because sometimes they are good. I mean, most of the time they are good. My morning sessions, it's just that my afternoon sessions, because there are too many. And by those time for my 4th period, they're just 21 students. And some of them are absent by that time. And also, there are really some of my students there I can't really handle their, they're noisy all the time. And even when I tell them to stop, they continue talking. And then when it's time to do the activity, they will just say, "Miss, I don't understand."
So I'm very appreciative of you being honest with yourself and actually reflecting, because a lot of the times whenever I have this conversation, I start off the same time, and a lot of the teachers that I'll talk to will say, "I think it went well." And I'm like, okay, what do you think you could have changed?
Yeah,
and
because
then,
I'm really gathering up a lot of suggestions on how to manage my
and so the things that you pointed out are things that I also noticed. I'm going to go in reverse order. Typically, I start with the things that you do really well, and then I go to the things that we're going to work on. But I'm going to work on the refinement first, because you've already pointed out some of the similar things that I've noticed. And so I want to kind of target those areas so that we can talk about it, because I don't think it's necessarily the way that the lesson was structured, or even the students. I think that there was small things that were causing disconnects, and I want to point those out first. So the things that I felt like you did really well, and this is just like when you're looking at your T-test evaluation, there's one that's an observation. So that's like how you did in the lesson, and then how I rated the lesson. And then this one is overall the things that I think you did really well and things that I think we're going to work on for the remainder of the year. Okay. And so this is like the summarized one. Mm-hmm. So the things that I feel like you did really well. Standards 1.1, which is the alignment. I think you planned the lesson very well. I think it was very well aligned, and I think it has the rigor and it follows the TEAC structure. Mm-hmm. So your planning, I think, is really good. Your content knowledge and expertise, also something that's a strength of yours. You do know the information that you're teaching. And there was lots of little things that you told to the students that I feel like was beneficial. Mm-hmm. Just like little things for them to remember. Like for the crisscross, you were like, there's no negative or positive.
Yeah, that's also a problem because the students hate numbers.
Yeah.
They were asking me, Miss, why are we teaching mathematics? This is chemistry.
And I think that that's a disconnect. The students do not understand that math and chemistry are very much siblings. They're cousins, yeah. And then I think that your classroom environment and the routines and procedures, I think that was not bad. I think that the students, from what I can see, they're very compliant. They listen well. Mm-hmm. They do engage with you. They talk with you. Mm-hmm. Some of them are off task. Yeah, but I think that overall, your environment in your classroom it's a good environment. Okay. And so I think that with your environment already being in a good place, it's going to be easy for you to shift it because it's already there. Mm-hmm. I think it just needs a little bit of tweaking. And so on here, I took all of these notes about things that I saw that you were doing in the class that were beneficial. I love that you're using the whiteboards because...
I've been applying that since we had our...
and no one else that I've seen yet has used whiteboards. And I just don't understand why people don't use it. I think the one thing that we are going to work on with your whiteboard... I
also like that idea because the students don't like to recite.
Correct.
When I call their names, they don't like to talk.
Correct.
Sometimes.
And so... that is a big component because I tallied your whiteboard responses, right? So here is where you were asking them a whiteboard question. You had them write it down. You had 10 out of 16 that responded to you. And then there was another time where you did the whiteboards and you had 7 out of 16. And then there's another one where you have 10 out of 16. The goal is for it to be 16 out of 16 every single time. Okay. And so the way that I think you can do that is with your achieving expectations. You're using timers, which is great. Yeah. But I feel like your pacing was fast. Okay. So even though you did not make it to your lesson, because you didn't make it to the exit ticket that day. Yeah, I did. I think there's just minor tweaks such as your bell ringer. You gave them, there was 15 minutes up, but then you gave them 10 minutes for the bell ringer. I think it's too long. Yeah. You need to keep your bell ringer between 5 and 6 or 7 minutes. So that's one thing. I switched to vocabulary meaning, which is fine. You're still gonna push the pace. So even if you add more to your bell ringer or if you add more information, you still don't change the space. You train your students to work efficiently in the amount of time that you give them. Okay. So don't adjust your time for your students. Make them adjust to the time. Okay. That's a big one. Again, the whiteboards are great because you do have your students using them, and the ones that know the answers, they know it. Something that we're going to tweak is when you ask them for whiteboard responses, give them a time frame. So in your, in your PowerPoints, start adding like little 30-minute or minute timers and actually use those because that's going to provide wait time. And you're going to have your students also trained to not hold their whiteboard up until you tell them to hold it up. Yeah. Because you had multiple students holding it up at different times. And so what that does is the ones who aren't ready to answer, they won't answer. And then the ones who really don't know are looking at those answers and they're cheating.
That's why yesterday I told them I'm going to count 1 to 3 and then that's the time you're going to erase your whiteboard because I saw your walkthrough in this trial.
Yeah, and so
I realized,
it's just minor adjustments because that's the thing. When you are doing these check for understandings, you want 100% participation, but you also want it to be where everybody's giving you their own thoughts. And so you're minimizing the amount of time that the boards go up for the students to be able to see. Because, a lot of them were like, I don't know the answer, but they want to participate. They want to participate, but they don't know the answer, so they're they're waiting. So that was a minor tweak. Again, just those 2 things are going to help you out a lot. Yeah. Starting to get that 100% participation, and then also follow through. When you say, okay, we're going to hold the whiteboards up, and I'm going to give you a timer, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, whiteboards up, and then make sure everybody gets them up at the exact same time. And then if a student does not hold it up, you keep waiting on them. Hey, I'm waiting on you. We're waiting for your whiteboard. Okay. And then they're going to eventually start doing it just because they're going to be like, I don't want her to keep saying, hold your whiteboard up.
Yeah, we do that only in Wayground.
Yeah.
When I do the teacher-based activity.
Yes. Yeah.
Because we cannot proceed to the next question when they are not, all of them are not.
Correct. So the same thing with your whiteboards. When you ask for a response, the expectation is that every single student
okay to wait for
does
them.
it.
Okay.
Yes, wait for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to get that they're going to start doing it because they don't want to be like the one that everybody's always having to wait for.
Yeah.
So hold that expectation.
That's also what I observe here with the students.
Mm-hmm. Hold that expectation and make sure it stays there. Something else too is a lot of the times, like what I've noticed in some of the classes and then in your lesson as well, there was one particular one where you had a question and I have it here.
Please pardon this interruption. Teachers, just a quick reminder, we need to post attendance in focus. Again, make sure that we are posting attendance in focus every period. Thank you.
So here was a specific question. You said we have carbon dioxide. Write down the prefixes. Dihydrogen oxide, and then it says what elements are present here. So you had dihydrogen oxide, and then you asked them to give you the elements that were present in that. And then you said, okay, does that make sense? And like on this particular one, you had 10 out of 16 responses. Mm-hmm. So for this particular thing, that is where I want for you, anytime you ask a question in your classroom, mm-hmm. either the students are writing the answers on paper or they're writing on the whiteboard. If you can train them to every time you ask a question, they automatically know to respond on the whiteboard, that is going to help you out tremendously. Because that's how you're going to start to get your student engagement to 100%. So you want to, every time you ask a question, refer them to the whiteboard. Or either if it's something else that you have where you're writing it, let them write. But you want them to put their thoughts on paper or whiteboards first, mm-hmm. because that trains them, for one, that everybody has to be accountable for an answer, mm-hmm. not just the one who knows it the fastest. And two, it's also making them process. And children people in general process usually better by writing, mm-hmm. but especially your EB students, the ones who are learning the language, they need that little bit of time to write their thoughts. Mm-hmm. So those are just minor things I think that are going to help out tremendously. But I do love that you're using the whiteboards, and the students are, honestly, they like it.
Yeah, I like it too.
They like to write on the whiteboards. So that one's for achieving expectations. Then our next one, I'm gonna move my phone over. Differentiation. So you're doing pretty good with differentiation. I feel like I added this in your folder, but the Wicker strategies, which is what we use as a campus for targeting, it's not even in here. I'll have to give you one. The Wicker strategies are what we use to target our students because we are an avid demonstration campus. And so these are literally differentiation tools. Mm-hmm. Anytime you're doing a lesson, which you did it on this one, on your lesson plans, you told me how you were going to do partner collaboration, think, pair, share, and then you were going to do your exit tickets. Your whiteboards are a big form of differentiation. But anytime you're doing lessons, you want to add these in there, something, because these are forms of differentiation. Okay. And that's how you're going to elevate that. So if you are working on your lesson plans and you want to use one of these, but you don't really know what it is, I can let you know what it is, or you can honestly Google it. Okay. But like a jigsaw is where you would have students become experts. So like this is a good opportunity for whenever you're introducing information or there's a lot for them to know. Mm-hmm. You would put them in groups, and each group would be responsible for one thing that they're going to present to the class. And then everybody learns the same information. So that's just one example. And so I don't think it's necessarily your groups that are the problem. That was something else that I was going to tell you for monitor and adjust. Mm-hmm. When you have your groups, you want to allow for the students to be grouped based on how you want them grouped. Mm-hmm. So you want to use your grouping to your benefit, and you want it to be purposeful. Put your students together, either your highs with your highs or your highs with your mediums, or students who are very talkative versus ones that are not. Make it strategic in order to benefit your lesson. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. But I'm going to give you this. Because this is really good. Anytime that you're working on your lesson plans, add one or two of these in there, and that's going to increase your differentiation also.
So it's not necessary that all of this.
No, because honestly, some of these you may never use, mm-hmm. and some of them you might try, but you may not like them. Mm-hmm. But like Think, pair, share. You probably use that on a daily.
Most of the time, yeah.
Everybody writes. Like I said, your whiteboards is that everybody writes. So every time they're giving you written responses, that is great.
So that's quick writes. Okay.
Yeah, quick writes too. So quick writes can be actually on paper where the students actually give you responses, and it's teaching them to think and process in full thoughts.
Yeah.
If you've ever noticed, students don't like writing complete sentences. So quick writes are really good for that purpose. So then we'll go into your ratings. And so on each one of these, I've highlighted what they are, but in the system, it's obviously not highlighted. So it's just going to be like this. And I just printed this out, but this is a different one. So if I go back over to this one, this is where the observation is. And it's literally the same thing. I just printed it out.
Okay.
And so all of this stuff in these gray boxes are evidence that I took. Either evidence that I saw something, or it could be lack of evidence, something that I'm looking for. So a lot of these have questions in them.
Yeah, I'm gonna read that.
And some of them are also, it's repetitive because lots of the things apply in multiple spots. So if I feel like it applied, I put it in multiple boxes. So like I said, for your lesson, for standard 1.1, which is planning, I think you're doing great with your planning. I put you at proficient because it's just minor things that you're going to add in that are going to get those engagements up, and that can move you over to accomplish. For 1.2, this one is the teacher uses formal and informal methods and for measuring progress. So this is like data collection. This, I put you at proficient. Again, when you are doing your whiteboards, you want 100% participation every single time. That is a way of moving over because that's data collection. But when you get that information, how are you using that data? That is another component. So when my students hold up their whiteboards, and either, if only 10 out of 16 hold them up, the question that I have as a teacher is, well, the question you have as a teacher is what? If only 10 out of 16 hold up the whiteboards, what would you think first and foremost?
Maybe they are not participating, or something is wrong with the question.
So either why are they not participating is the first thing you're going to think.
Yeah.
Is it because they don't know the answer?
Yeah.
Or is it because they don't understand? Correct.
Yeah.
And so those are the two things that you should think. If I present a question and I'm asking for participation, when they hold the whiteboard up, either there's misconceptions on the whiteboards, they're getting it wrong. That lets you know that they're thinking in a way that's not correct, or they're getting it right. But for students who don't participate, why are they not participating? So it could be because they haven't had enough time to process.
Yeah.
They don't understand the question, or either some of them, they just don't want to, right?
Yeah.
The ones that just don't want to are the ones that you really got to stay on, and in more of a positive way. Hey, I know you know the answer. Hey, just try. You know, that type of positive conversation to get them to want to try it. Because usually they do know the answer.
Yeah, I do that, but it costs a lot of time.
Yeah, that's okay. The thing is, your goal is to get to 100%.
Yeah.
It may not be 100% every single time, but that is your goal. And as a teacher, that's where you're monitoring and adjusting. If I know this kid is just being defiant, you're going to work on this kid all year long. Eventually, your goal is to get them to want to participate every day. But, of course, you don't want to spend every single day focusing on this one kid, correct? So if you get 11 or 12 or 13 or 14 out of 16, that's good. You're going up. You're going to have some difficult ones. So that is where you're, over time, you're trying to realize, how do I work with this kid to get them to do what I want?
Yeah.
That makes sense. But yes, I think that one's good. I love the whiteboards, like I said. You're going to see a change in your data because of those. So knowledge of students. This is another one where I put you at developing because this is one where strategically setting your classroom up to benefit you as a teacher is going to help you.
Yeah.
Your students, like there's a kid that I set by at the back. He kind of just was like disengaged.
Yeah.
Put him at the front of the classroom.
Yeah, and you know what, Miss, one time, my students were saying, Miss, that man there is, that guy there smells like, I don't know the term, it's marijuana.
Like he's high.
Yeah, and then I said, what am I gonna do? I don't know what the smell. I don't know what is that. How would I know it was that?
Oh my
goodness. What am I gonna do? Do I need to tell the...
I'm like, well, if they ever do tell you that and you really feel like they're not like just messing with him, you can just send me a text and I'll come pull him out of class.
Okay.
And then I'll take him to the nurse, because the nurses can do a check on them just to see if they do believe that they're under the influence, and then we'll send them off for a drug test. So if you think the kids are just messing with him saying that, then that's one thing. But if you think like, yes, this kid sleeps all the time, that's a red flag. If he never wants to pay attention, he's always disengaged. I'd first start with calling.
I have a student like that in my period aid.
Yeah, I would start by calling parents.
I really don't know what to do. I have called the parents, they're not answering. I have sent a referral for him, and then.
So what I would do is
no changes.
If the student is not responding to you in the classroom and you're calling parents and they won't answer, send an email to the corral principal and ask if you can get updated information because you've been trying to contact parents and there's no response.
Okay.
Start there, and then if the numbers still don't work, ask them for help because you're trying to reach your parents.
The principal for that corral.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so 1.4, this one is for flexible and engaging lessons. I put you at proficient. I think your lesson was engaging. Again, the student engagement is the problem. The lesson is there. How can you get the students to actually participate? And so that's another one where I have a solution. 2.1, achieving expectations, of course. This one I put you at developing because we got to get those participation rates up. Your knowledge of content, proficient. Communication, proficient. Differentiation, you're proficient. Monitor and adjust, this is one where I put you developing, and this is where I was going to target that. So with your pacing, this is where I think the issue came in with that lesson. The students, you were giving them a minute. So I put on here, you're giving them a minute, right? You say, okay, I'm going to give you a minute and I'm going to come check this.
Yeah.
Good strategy because you're telling them what you're looking for, which is called naming your lap, and you gave them a set time to get it completed, and then you walked around to check that they did it.
Yeah.
That is awesome. The concern that I have is you gave them 1 minute to do the assignment, but then when you had to float around to check it, it took you actually 5 minutes to check those.
Yeah.
So a way to adjust that is to actually give them the 5 minutes and let them know.
Okay.
Let them know, hey, this is what I'm looking for. I'm going to give you a little bit of time as a group. Work on this. Get your answers. If you finish that task, move on to the next task, and then let them work.
Can I also walk around while the 5 minutes is okay?
So that's the plan.
Yeah.
You're just giving yourself more time because the kids are trained to think, I have a minute. When the minute's up, I can't work anymore. And that's what they were doing. They just stopped working because, well, the timer went off. So you want your timer to continue going, which is why I say 5 minutes or so is a better timer. Because if I give them 5 minutes, then I'm probably going to float around within 2 minutes of that time and actually start checking. And that is where you design your classroom. I check my students who I know work quickly and efficient first because I know, okay, yep, you're probably going to have it right, and then move on. The ones who take longer, I check them last. And then I know I'm probably going to have to work with them.
Okay.
Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So you strategize the way you move around your classroom based on your student levels. Okay? So I think that would help. But make sure your timers are not too long, but not too short. Because if they're too short, kids are like, oop, time's up.
Yeah.
I don't got to work. And if it's too long, then it's slowing the pacing of your class down.
Yeah.
Okay? So for classroom environment, that one I put you at proficient. Managing student behavior, I put you at developing only because, again, this one student, he just was not on task. And then, and so like towards the end of the lesson, it started to break down. Some of your students just became very disengaged. You had a girl curling her eyelashes at the back. There's another one on the phone, and it's because of the pacing. But once you get your pacing accurate, it's going to help your student behavior. And it's not that they're misbehaving, like they're not distracting or being bad, but they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I understand that. They're always like that.
Yeah, and so those are just issues with pacing. It's fine. Once you get your pacing and your monitor and adjust right, it's going to help a lot of this. And then your classroom culture, I put you at proficient. Again, I think there's mutual respect between you and your students. You're just struggling to figure out how to get them to engage. Yeah. So overall, I don't think it was horrible. I think you did pretty good.
Wow, thank you, Mia.
Yeah, I think that the fact that you're honest with yourself and you reflect on your practices is going to help you tremendously.
Yeah.
And so I'm just here to help you tweak those minor things, and hopefully you start seeing adjustments really quick. Okay, so do you have any specific questions? I know I went over a lot of information.
No, I was just trying to say what I'm going to do with my students in the last period. because he really naps all the time in my class, and I don't know what to do with him.
So for A period, I'll try and stop by there,
Mhm.
and then I'll do a walkthrough in that class just to observe for myself and see if I can figure out who is the student.
His name is, I have it written here because I have already called the parents
Mhm.
2 times, and not
Mhm.
just the parents, even the sisters. Yeah, this is
And it's not changing.
Jonathan Armendariz.
Okay, he's a Corral 1 student. So
Yeah.
send Miss Bird an email
Yeah, I'm gonna say.
and let her know that you've already contacted parents multiple times to get support with the student. He's sleeping constantly in your class, and ask her to give you feedback on or support on how to reach that student.
Okay. I have already sent a referral letter for this student.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll work on that because it's an engagement component. Again, you're going to have some students that are a little bit more difficult sometimes because they just don't have the desire to want to do it. But
I have already asked the
We'll
other
work on it.
teachers, and they said, yeah, he was like that all the time. And then I don't want him to be like that in my class because my students will think that it's okay
it's
to
okay.
nap.
Correct. So, yeah, we'll start targeting that. But like I said, the more engaging your lessons become and the more that you allow the students to take on more of that workload and you become a facilitator and they're working a lot more, hopefully that also helps. The goal is for you to give instruction as needed, but allow your students to do a lot of the inquiry and work.
Mhm.
And then that will also help with your engagement because the less that we talk as teachers, the more students are going to be engaged anyway.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
what
finding
I observed.
that
the
balance.
more I talk, the more they're talking.
Yeah. So finding that balance because their attention spans are really short. And honestly, yeah, give them very specific information of what you want them to do. Like chunk your instructions. Here's what I need from you. This is what you're gonna do. Okay, start, and then allow them to work.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we overtalk it, and then the kids check
Yeah,
out.
they don't like teachers who are always talking in front of them.
Yeah.
They will also talk. Miss, are we gonna have another T-test observation also?
So pretty much the rest of the year, I float in and do walkthroughs. Other teachers do or administrators do walkthroughs, and then that's how I compile the information. But it will be a summative, and we'll go over the information based on evidence that you've built up over the year. So you won't have another formal observation for an entire class period, but you do have another, like on paper, a summative. And that's where I take the information that's been compiled for you all year long, and I see how are we doing with the goals that we set, and either we can move you forward or you stay the same, or sometimes people go backwards. We don't want to go backwards.
Okay.
It's not so common, but the goal is to go forward.
Yeah.
So I'm going to send you really and truly the ones that you want to focus on is here where it has your post conference and the bottom part where it says recommendations. This is what you really would want to read to know for next steps.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But if you have specific questions, just let me know. And if you're working on lessons and you're trying to figure out how to do the engagement piece, let me know.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Thank
if
you,
nothing
Miss.
else, okay, I'm gonna send
I
this
was
to
thinking
you.
I'm worst with my observation.
No. There's always light, and so that's the thing. Whenever you're very honest with yourself, you're always gonna feel like you do worse than you do.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Because you're not always doing bad. You got to find the small victories and you got to take those small victories. You know what I mean? So I think you did well.
Thank you, Miss.
Okay, I'm going to stop.